Hello and welcome to another live stream, episode 21, I believe it is. So thank you ever so much for joining. Today we do have a special guest who's going to be joining us very soon, Stuart Allen from Teffel Lemon. And if you're not sure about Stuart Allen, he runs the Teffel Lemon YouTube and also his own website. He's also got a course that he runs too. So just to get started and share what he's up to, it will be great if he joins us, and he's here as well, I believe. So I'm going to put my headphones on and bring him in, and let's see how he's getting on. So, hi there, Stuart.
Hi, Martin. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Thank you ever so much for joining.
Not echoing or anything?
No, it's all perfect, despite the few minutes of technical worries, I suppose. But no, all good, thank you.
Do you know what? I've only done, this is the second time I've ever done this. And the first time was like about a year ago. And we were playing with kind of like echoey feedback, and everyone in the room was saying, you know, it keeps echoing and everything. It was a bit of a disaster, very unfortunately. So that still gives me nightmares. So I'm glad that everything's going okay.
Yeah, it's all fine, thank you. Thank you ever so much for joining today, Stuart. And I just introduced the live stream and viewers here to your YouTube. So maybe if you wish, I'll just share your YouTube in a moment. But I've got your page up. And so here's your YouTube. Can you see that all right?
It's just like, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to introduce your YouTube to people here?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I guess a little bit about Teffel Lemon first. I live out in China, as I'm sure we might be talking about a bit later on. But I started up a blog, just a very small blog in China about 10 years ago. And I thought it was kind of time that I did like something on YouTube as well, outside of China. So I started off the channel maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, and just kind of like uploading videos to help teachers come up with kind of classroom ideas, activities, speaking activities, and just little things that basically will make teachers' lives a little bit easier. So that's pretty much what the channel is about. I've done reviews for kind of online courses on the channel when in the early days of it. And now kind of just focus on stuff for teachers to kind of do activities and stuff like that, writing activities, ways to improve listening, methodologies to put together lesson plans for particular skills. So that's pretty much what the channel is about.
Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing. One question that I've got is maybe should teachers get involved in YouTube? You know, English language teachers. Do you think teachers should try and share content online?
Absolutely, and there's a couple of really good reasons why. Because basically we're these teachers, you know, there's lots of us, and we're always on the lookout for kids, right? And when I first started teaching a very long time ago now, the biggest resource that I kind of had at the time was other teachers in my school. So, you know, they would have activities that they tried in their classes that worked really well. You know, they'd say, hey, Stu, try this activity, it's really good. And so you do that. And as you know, the internet developed, it became a big kind of like teacher's office, right? So we could, rather than just having like a handful of teachers that were in the office, we could share ideas with each other. And it can be quite daunting, I guess, setting up your own channel. You know, so many channels out there that are so slick and so well run. It can be people are intimidated. Mine's not going to be as good. You know, I'm not going to bother. How do you do it? How much is it going to cost with the equipment? I don't know what to do. So they put it off. But I really suggest that people do start their own channel, because your ideas could be absolutely fantastic for other people. And also, one reason that I guess some people don't think about, or some teachers don't think about, is it's really motivating for yourself. Because let's say you've got an idea to share with someone, and you kind of with that idea you want to make a video, you might go and do some extra research yourself. Just add a little bit. So it's a really good way of developing your own skills for continuous professional development as well. Making these videos, you are your own skills. So that's two really big reasons for helping the global community of several teachers out there with your own ideas, getting them out there. But also you are developing yourself and having your own skills as well by making these channels. You're giving yourself extra tools and giving yourself extra knowledge by making your own channel.
Okay. Well, Stuart, the connection's slightly laggy at the moment. I can hear you fine, but if you're able just to check your internet settings briefly, that would be great.
Yeah. Let me. The problem is here in China, you need a VPN. Yeah, let me try to disconnect here. The only thing is that might cut me off.
That's understandable. Yeah, have a go and see. But I was having a listen to what you were saying about sharing content, getting teachers to share best ideas, best practice with each other on YouTube, and getting involved with making content and videos for other teachers. And I think that's quite an important idea and lesson for other teachers, particularly in their early stages of the career. One thing that became apparent for me when I first started teaching back in Korea was that I had a very, very little connection with other teachers apart from just the staff room, and I was the only native English teacher back then, and it was very difficult to bounce ideas off with other teachers and to get best practice or to get ideas. But I find nowadays, particularly with how the internet's evolved over the past 15, 16 years that I've been teaching, is that it's very easy to connect through Twitter, through Facebook, through YouTube. What are your thoughts with regards to how staff can connect with each other without the boundaries of a staff room?
Yeah. So, well, firstly, has my connection improved at all?
Much better. Yeah. Thank you, Stuart.
All right. Okay. Don't be afraid to stop me mid waffle if I'm not being heard. All right. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm quite new to Twitter. That's pretty much how me and you came into kind of contact with it, wasn't it, Martin? Like through Twitter.
Yes, that's right. I started Twitter probably about 11 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back when it first started.
I'm a newbie at Twitter. It's I guess, because I've been living out in China for nearly 20 years now, I've gotten really used to not really doing a lot of kind of like your Facebook and stuff. I've just slowly stopped using it. But it's really important that addressing your question about kind of taking things beyond like the staff room, basically, is building up your personal learning network of professionals out there. It's never been easier. If you jump onto Twitter or LinkedIn, Pearl Trees, there's so many different ways that you can really connect and purposefully grow your personal learning network of
Mhm.
other like-minded, great people out there that all have this passion for teaching English. You know, through things like Twitter and Facebook groups and things like that, you can really kind of like build a really good, meaningful connection and learn things from one another.
Yes, yes, that's very true. Well, one thing that I wanted to ask was, it's the first time that I've heard about you being involved in English teaching for about 20 years. So, you've got, about 4 or 5 years more than me experience. But I'm just wondering how you got into English language teaching, what actually got you into this industry, I suppose.
Yeah, I think like a lot of us out there, I kind of fell into it. When I first got into TEFL teaching, I had no idea that I would kind of be doing it 20 years later. I didn't have that long kind of vision of it. It was just very kind of immediate. And what actually happened was I had a friend that went to the same school as me in Seaford. And he told me that he was going out to Indonesia to become an English teacher. And I just couldn't believe it. This was kind of like not in the early days of TEFL, but it was around the early 2000s. And, it wasn't as big then as it is today. And I just couldn't understand how somebody could go to another country, not being able to speak any of the language and teach English to people. I just couldn't work out how that would be. But he surprised everybody and off he went. And he sent me a photograph of him a few months later on a motorbike in Indonesia going up a volcano. And I thought to myself, at the time I worked in a shopping centre in Churchill Square in Brighton.
Oh, yeah, I know the one.
Yeah. We for those watching, me and Martin, we live in the same part of the country.
We do, yeah, in Sussex, East Sussex.
Yeah, down in East Sussex, and so I was selling mobile phones in Brighton in the shopping centre. Very boring, bored of my job, and here I had this photo of a good friend of mine on a motorbike in Indonesia, and I immediately am doing the wrong thing here. So I looked into English teaching. He connected me. Am I coming through? Okay, Martin.
The connection's just slightly dropped a little bit.
Yeah. Let me know if you kind of need me to reconnect to anything.
Sure. Still a bit jumpy, I suppose, but I can hear you. Okay, I guess.
Okay, let me give it. It's one of the pains here, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So he how's that?
Let's run with it. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, don't be afraid to say it's terrible. So he put me in touch with the training school that he studied with in Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
And literally about 2 months later from receiving that photo, I was taking off to begin my TEFL journey in China.
Wow,
so
2 months, eh?
Literally really fast, yeah.
Yeah.
I quit my job. I had full and do it. And started my training and away I went.
I'm really sorry, Stuart. The connection's a bit poor at the moment. So if you're able to check that would be great.
Yeah, let me give that a try.
But I suppose for those that are unaware, one of the difficulties, I suppose, with living in China is the Great Firewall of China. And particularly for those that have been involved with teaching remotely, there's this firewall which seems to have a sort of a challenge, or you have it's quite removed, and so for some students that I've taught online, they've had to deal with this the Great Firewall of China for the moment. But
yeah.
Yeah.
How's that now, Martin?
Perfect. Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah,
And thanks for your patience.
I think thanks for the people watching's patience. Yeah, as Martin said, it's very it can be quite difficult here because the Great Firewall of China, basically, lots of foreign websites are blocked coming into the country. There's no access to YouTube or Facebook. Instagram is blocked. Pinterest is blocked. A lot of the really best kind of teaching resources are blocked, and you have to use special software to kind of navigate your way around, which can be quite difficult.
Yeah. So, to reiterate, you started teaching, I guess. You quit your job 2 months after you were in teaching abroad. And what happened next? What got you into China, I suppose? Was that the first country you got into?
Yeah, well, yes. First and last. I've taught a lot in the UK with English summer camps. Every year I'd come back. Living in Brighton, it's a great area as a TEFL teacher because there's always language travel things going. Hastings as well, Eastbourne. I came to a city called Xi'an, which it's pretty much slap bang in the middle of China. It's a kind of central China. A lot of people wouldn't have heard of Xi'an, but it's where the terracotta warriors are. The famous terracotta warriors. That's where they are in the city where I am. So if you were to jump in the car, 45 minutes, you can be at the terracotta warriors. That's pretty much where I am. And I started off with the language training center, EF, English First.
Yes.
Very well-known training school. And it was a good start, actually, because although the salary wasn't that great compared to other places, working at a place like EF, it gave you some structure, and they were really into their training and workshops and things like that. So it was a nice choice. And at the time, now EF has kind of specialized, where it has in China. So you've got like your adult schools and your, your young learner schools. But at the time, it was all mixed. And the director of studies would just give you classes of whatever was going. So over the year, I had experience of working with very young children, teens, adults, and I was starting to go off-site as well. So I was teaching business English as well. So it allowed me to have experience of all these different kind of age groups and different teaching kind of styles that I had to learn, and a lot of self-training, because you do your TESOL, your CELTA or anything. You don't really get prepared for any of that. You have to learn on the job.
Yes, that's true. Well, one question that I've got is maybe the most difficult challenge you faced in China. I've only taught in Korea and Romania, and both countries I've had challenges and some quite memorable experiences as well. But what's been the biggest challenge, the most difficult challenge you faced?
I think, now the modern challenge that we have now is with mental health and COVID and not being able to kind of leave the country. This is the most immediate and most difficult challenge facing TEFL teachers in China right now. We're all kind of in quite a bad place. That said, overall, over the whole 20 years, I guess on average, the biggest challenge has been like the language barrier. Everything is written in Chinese characters. There's a little bit of English, but generally, if you go in to order a meal in a restaurant, the menu is all in Chinese characters. The menu on the wall is in Chinese. The shop front is in Chinese, so you don't even know what kind of food that they do. So this is the biggest challenge, but it's maybe it's one of those exciting things that people yearn for, when they become a TEFL teacher. This big kind of needing to adapt and being out of your comfort zone a little bit. This is why we become TEFL teachers and go abroad. It's the attraction, right? But I guess it does have its difficulties. If you go to a supermarket, maybe some of the things that you begin to miss aren't available. You try and you find a recipe that you want to cook, you can't find the ingredients for it. You must have had this in Korea, right?
Yeah, well, funny enough, my experience in Korea was actually quite positive. I remember there was one experience when I was on the bus and the bus driver was kind of being difficult to hear me, despite all the other passengers shouting, because they could understand me. That was the most difficult. But it was the reverse culture shock, which I found quite interesting. And because I was involved within a sort of Korean environment in Korea, and Korean wife and British Korean son and Korean friends, that sort of and being the only native teacher in a particular school, my environment was solely Korean, I guess, for 18 months until I moved to another job and was involved with other native English teachers. But it gave me an insight into the culture. And one thing which I missed was like the sort of the food, the Sunday lunch, the roast chicken, the Yorkshire puddings and that sort of thing. And my parents came to visit me, my mum and my brother. And my mum, we cooked rice every day and we cooked Korean food every day. And I think it was about day 4. And my mum just turned around and said, well, I just want to have something really greasy. She wanted like fried chicken or something like that, like KFC. And so we had to phone up at like 11:30 at night saying, can we order some some Korean chicken, please, to go? And, they delivered it. And my mum and brother were sat in the corner of the room eating this fried chicken. And it was quite funny to see. But yeah, I could relate to that.
It is, isn't it? Like fish and chips, and a little bit of French bread. It's really hard to buy French bread here. All of these little things that you miss, but this is like the kind of culture shock that you'll get, right, going abroad to teach. No matter where you teach, you're going to miss home.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. But yeah, well, I guess that was a memorable experience as well. But have there been any memorable experiences that you've that are in your mind, and something maybe from 16 years ago, 15 years ago, or something like that?
Oh, I guess there's just so many. I went traveling around China one time, and I've just got so many stories, I guess, from from traveling here. On the back of a Chinese 20 yuan banknote, you get these lovely cast mountains. You don't really see cash anymore here. It's a little bit of a cashless society. Yeah, everyone just pays for everything using the mobile phone. It's really kind of a weird thing. But if you look on the back of a 20 yuan banknote, which I actually haven't seen for about 2 years, you get these lovely carved mountains on the back. And I found myself in the same place as where those mountains are. You had this river going through.
Right.
And I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm gonna jump in that and I'm gonna swim down this river. So I jumped in, I'm swimming down this river, and then you've got these mountains on both sides of me. It's just so beautiful. And I just thought, I am really lucky to kind of be here, In the last autumn, me and my wife, we went. That's it. Yeah. I don't know if you can see the back of it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, on the back there.
Yeah.
You put those mountains.
Mm-hmm.
That river, I swam in that very river right there.
Wow.
That very place. And I just thought, well, how lucky am I to be able to do this, you know?
Gosh.
Yeah. And
that's amazing.
Just, oh, it is lovely. And last, it's a little bit kind of Indiana Jonesy. Last autumn, I went hiking with my wife up into the mountains here, and I'm wearing shorts, and I'd been warned not to wear shorts, and they said, you know, don't wear shorts, wear like long kind of like tracksuit bottoms or something. And I didn't listen. I thought I knew best, and I thought the problem was kind of bramble bushes or something scratching my legs. I thought, oh, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And there was like
a very British mindset, isn't it? I'll be all right, whatever the weather.
Yeah, I'll be fine. And we were walking along with an American couple, and she said to me, "You've got some slugs on your leg, right?" So I looked down, and sure enough, there were some slugs on my legs. I had slugs all over my legs, and I tried to, you know, like in Sussex, after it's been raining, you get those like black slugs.
Yeah.
You know, I had some all over my calves and my shins and everything, and I've grabbed it to pull it off, and it didn't come off. And it just got longer, and my legs were covered in leeches.
Oh, yep.
Wow.
Wow.
And I thought, right, now I know why they told you not to wear shorts.
Well, a mistake, I suppose, which you haven't done before, I guess.
No,
you won't do again.
Will not do again. But it kind of just sums up like the kind of the adventure, I guess, that you can have going abroad to be a teacher.
Okay. Well, we've got a question here from BM. Where are you from, teacher? So I guess, yeah, I think we've answered that already, but Stuart's from China, mainland China, and I'm in the UK, and we're both born and bred from Sussex, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the next one, I suppose now, you know, during the pandemic, things were just so difficult, not just in the UK, but internationally. And I think it's kind of English language teaching has definitely evolved from what it used to be like pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. But what recommendations, you know, once the world opens up, once China opens up, what recommendations would you have for teachers seeking TEFL work in China?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been here now this will be my 20th year in September. It's my 20th anniversary of first coming out here, and my whole career has been out in China. So I've seen it change. And there's been really big policy changes as well here towards kind of language teaching and training and things. There's lots of kind of reasons that are going on. Maybe 10 years ago, China was the real hot spot for language teaching jobs. There were so many jobs here, schools in every city, in every town. You had kindergartens, you had public schools, you had training centers, business English jobs. This was the global hotspot for language teaching, and for pay as well. That the pay was fantastic, and now it's impossible to come to China to teach English. The borders are closed. Lots of people ask all the time, you know, are the borders open yet? You know, can I come in and teach? And you just can't. You can't. So right now there's the like a diminishing pool of foreign teachers that are in China. Lots of people are giving up. There was quite a big famous kind of case just over from last Monday. British couple and their children kind of just fled back to the UK. Broke a contract and left, because they just felt kind of trapped here. People, they have their jobs here, and if they go and visit family back home, they're unable to get back in again. So you've got people here that it's been close to 3 years now. They haven't visited family or friends anywhere in the world, because if they leave, they can't come back in. So if you're outside of China and you've just finished your TEFL training, or you've been teaching other countries and you want to have China as an option, it's not an option for you right now, basically.
Do you see the borders opening up maybe in a year or 2 years' time, possibly?
I think so. I think I think the big reason now is COVID. There's a zero tolerance policy here for COVID. I mean, I got tested like yesterday. Everyone most people in China, in cities, they live in gated communities, big blocks of flats with like a community, maybe 10,000 people living in one kind of quite condensed area, one way in, one way out, with guards at the gate to help security. But, for example, here in the community I live in, they come around with loudspeakers at 5 a.m, waking everybody up, loud music, speakers, come and get your test, come and get your test. If it's your day off and you want to lay in, unlucky.
Of course. Yes. Yeah. Gosh.
And
well,
and you get, it's just such a, on the consciousness of Chinese people. They just think it's like this a really terrible disease that you must avoid, and that's the narrative here, in the media here, that it's this terrible thing and we can't let it in. And so the borders are closed.
Well, obviously what's happened internationally now, with regards to Ukraine, it's one thing I don't usually talk about on my channel, but the war in Ukraine has kind of diverted attention in Europe and the UK away from COVID towards how everybody's got to unite internationally against one country. And it's quite interesting now where you've got a herd immunity approach within the UK, Europe, and the rest of the world, and it seems everything's back to normal back in the UK. I go out, no one's wearing masks, everyone's going, well, we're vaccinated, the vaccination program's gone well, and if we get it, we get it. We've got bigger things to worry about than what was considered a pandemic or a global pandemic, and it's really shifted away from the forefront of everyone's minds.
I'm hoping next year it opens up, because in November there's a leadership election here, and the current president of China is up for re-election. It's not set in stone. So I think he wants a steady ship in the run up to that election with no outbreak, and then hopefully next year, once that election process is finished, then the borders may open. But we thought that before, there's always seems to be something that stops it. So people are kind of getting a little bit like, had enough now, basically. A lot of foreign teachers here are now returning to the UK.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question from the same person that was asking where we're from. He's asked, can you give an idea about Chinese students? I suppose, how would you describe a Chinese student? I suppose there's differentiation between young learners and adults, and how would you cope? How would you cope with serious cases in your class, or any classroom management issues? How would you deal with any issues in the classroom?
Chinese students are very easy to teach because they have been kind of what's the word for it? Not they've been kind of acclimatized from a very young age to take study very seriously. Homework is a really big thing here. You know, they start getting homework even as young as kindergarten. And then they go into primary school, very, very large classes, 50, 60, up to 70 students per class. The teacher has absolute authority. It's not very like learner-centered teaching at all whatsoever. In fact, that isn't encouraged. So Chinese students are very obedient. They are very minimal behavioural issues. I mean, you do kids are kids. Often, if you're teaching English at like a language centre, they see it as like a DOS time, where they don't have to be serious.
Yes.
So, yeah. Did you have that in Korea? What kind of context were you teaching in?
So my initial context was within a private language school, what they call like a cram school, a hagwon. The children that were coming into the hagwon at the time, it was like an after school program. So the kids would go into their main public school, and they would be taught their various subjects. And then after that, they'd go to various institutes, private language schools. And one could be maths, one could be science, another could be Korean, English, etc., etc. And so, yeah, within the English institute, there were some kids that considered it a chance just to relax and get that much needed rest that they needed from the public school and the various other work that was involved. And also, it was an opportunity for them to just get away from the stresses that they had, because Korea, I'm not sure about China, but in Korea, it is, and it was back then, a hyper competitive environment where, students were competing to get the best grade or the best mark or be recognized and that sort of thing, which again is it's so sad, because you got like these young kids and they're just being so competitive, and it's you're only a child once, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. It sounds very similar in Korea as it is here in China. It's test-based learning. Your grades are everything, and your creativity is kind of sucked out of you. Lots of practice tests. So yeah, a lot of pressure on these kids. So and also, I guess in answer to the question as well, Chinese children or Chinese students are better behaved. They are less outgoing, they're less willing to take risks in the classroom, less willing to make mistakes. They don't want to make mistakes publicly. So, if you're trying to set up, for example, a kind of role play or get students up at the front to do a short dialogue or anything, there's quite a lot of resistance often to get them up, and you have to really build up trust and rapport. This is a really big thing that I really advocate. Build up trust and rapport with your students so you can get the best out of them. So if you find yourself teaching Chinese students, whether that be online or eventually when the borders open, you come in here, if you build up that trust and that rapport, it really sets you up for a much better learning outcome.
Yes. Okay. I've got another question here from Tamara, and she was saying that she's taught Chinese students in Vancouver, British Columbia, and they were all given English names in China by their teachers, and she said she was horrified with this. And are they still doing this? And I guess my experience with Chinese students, some of them still have their English names given to them by their teachers or by their parents. And this is just going back a few years ago, but I guess is this still a thing in China?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's part of in primary school, the teachers would give English names, and it was part of the mindset of learning English and the fun and the adventure. And all the children would love having English names. Quite often they would change their English names, which would be great fun after you've been teaching them for a year or two. And they said, no, I'm not Thomas anymore, I'm Edward. You have to kind of relearn their name. And it's still a thing. It's still a thing, basically.
Well, I think when it comes down to English names for Chinese, I get the idea that, you know, I prefer to be called my name when I go to Korea, although I've got a Korean name as well, which is just a sort of a play with the word of England in Korean. So England is Yongguk, and I'm a man, so Yongguk Namja. And so I thought, you know, Yongnam, Young, so Englishman.
Oh, okay.
So that's my Korean name, and it's a recognized Korean name as well. So, you know, I've got Martin, and if someone finds it a bit difficult to pronounce Martin, which most Koreans don't have issue with, Yongnam, and that's it.
That's interesting, actually, because England in Chinese is Lingua.
Oh.
So it's like yin and yang. It probably has similar roots, you know, going back a long time.
Yes, and Korea, I know in Chinese, maybe Korea is Goryeo, I think.
Okay. Yeah,
and that's
it's different. It's different in Chinese.
Korean in Chinese. I'm not sure what's Korea in Chinese.
Hangul.
Oh, okay, Hanguk. Yeah, Hanguk is Korean for Korea.
Yeah.
But Korea, the word Korea comes from the old name of Korea, of Goryeo or something like that.
Okay.
Back when Korea was quite a large country. Okay. Well, let's have a look at another thing. We've spoken quite a bit about the post-pandemic future of maybe English language teaching, possibly in China. What are your experiences, though, of teaching English remotely? How, you know, obviously the pandemic has moved this forward, and, you know, I've been involved with English teaching remotely for about 6 or 7 years now. Initially with a Chinese organization, teaching children and adults remotely, but things have shifted. Policy has changed, so that there's no after-school programs, and children have to have limited homework and more free time, and the curriculum's quite dictated now. But what's your experience has been of English language teaching within a remote environment?
Yeah, well, I think the pandemic definitely accelerated what was already happening, because the world was already moving away from traditional classrooms into, and it will continue to do so. In 10 years' time, I think I've looked at some of the numbers. More people will be learning online than they will be in classrooms in 10 years' time. And I think the pandemic served to accelerate what was already happening. So just kind of sped it up, basically. There's been some really good research done into online teaching and with engagement, and kind of what can be done to encourage more learner engagement, to get more out of online classes. And quite a lot of it was classes should not be so linear. More kind of interaction with students, getting them to have ownership of the process, like asking them to go and collect things from around the home to show the teacher, show things that are meaningful to the teacher, and really take more kind of ownership of what's going on. Not make things so linear. Using your hands more, you can move the camera to and you can have photographs, kind of virtual realia almost, photographs, newspaper cuttings, blocks, things like this. So you can move the camera around. It doesn't have to be so set in stone.
That's
how
true.
online learning occurs. Yeah.
I suppose the example that I gave just earlier was about your description of the 20 yuan note and swimming, and I was able to Google it and find an image. So I guess within a remote environment we're able to pull out so many resources and also share it with students. I think, digital realia, I suppose, if you want to call it, you can describe or you can give a picture to students quite quickly and source a picture quite quickly. And so I've been teaching students. I was teaching a student about UK housing, and UK housing is very different to housing in other parts of the world, obviously. And I was trying to describe, what a terrace house is, what would be an end of terrace house, what is a bungalow, and that sort of thing. And you're able to find so much online quite quickly, which helps you describe what you're trying to teach in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like your example right there with terrace housing and semi-detached and things like that. If you just get some like literally blocks, if you're a parent, you've probably got some Duplo blocks around. Get it on the table. Just show that, actually physically show the student, and it helps so much. Yeah, and if you're teaching online, don't have on the screen what the students are meant to be saying, because they end up just reading it. Just take it away. And get them to produce more kind of authentic language.
Yes, that's true. It reminds me of a talk I went to see actually in Romania by what's his name? I've got his book behind me. Can't remember his name though. It'll kill me. But he was showing like disappearing text, where you have a sort of role play with the text, and initially the students get used to it, they read it, but then you start to remove the text bit by bit, and the students have to try and remember it. And it's such a great way. It's quite a repetitive way, but quite fun, engaging, and it can also prompt students into producing something more authentic, I guess.
That's it, yeah. And then once they're really familiar and comfortable with the structure, can do different substitutions. So you can take out, for example, terrace housing. You can put in something new, and they've kind of gotten used to that structure. So they're able to reproduce the language kind of with more accuracy as well.
That's true. Right, I'm going to move on to maybe possibly we've discussed this initially, I guess, in the beginning of connecting with English teachers, but what advice would you have with regards to connecting with English teachers both at home and abroad? What would be your recommendations?
Yeah, well, it's super important to connect with other professionals out there, and it's fun as well. It's a fun experience. You can I don't know if your viewer there saw the beginning of this stream. Me and Martin, we've kind of we're from the same part of the world, literally. Like what is it, a 10-minute drive or something?
10 minutes away, from each other.
Literally 10 minutes away, but we've never met each other in real life, and it's only through this modern virtual world that we've managed to connect with each other. And I'm sure this won't. When I'm back in the UK, we're going to probably meet up and get some food and stuff. And it's such a good opportunity to meet other people that have the same passions and the same interests. In this kind of great language teaching kind of career that we've all embarked on, and all of the people watching this stream will be involved with. And it's such a good opportunity to people they like to interact and talk to each other, so we should embrace that and just strike up conversations online and nurture it from there.
Right. I'm looking at some of the other questions that we've got here. I've got one question here. Do schools look for differences between American versus British teachers? I'm from North America, and I've already noticed differences in vocabulary and pronunciation. So, two Brits are here on a live stream, and Tamara's already picked up on the differences in our vocab and prawn, I guess. But just before you answer, personally, in my experience, I in South Korea, there's a heavy dependence on American forces within that region, American army, and obviously that goes hand in hand with the sort of exposure that South Koreans have with regards to English, and a lot of it is predominantly American English. And I remember going for an interview, or it was, going for an interview. I submitted my CV, got interviewed. It's, you're not American. We're looking for an American teacher. And I kind of, that stuck with me. And I thought, yeah, okay, no thanks. Thank you anyway. And then I moved on. What about in your experience in China? Has there been a difference between American and British teachers?
There was a big push for native speakers, and that when I first came here, it was they were preferred, and quite a lot of the different cities around China would not accept non-native teachers. Then that kind of went away, and then non-native teachers could get jobs teaching English, which is a good thing. I'm sure all of us would agree. And now the policy is shifted back, and now if you're from a non-native country, then you won't be given a visa. So you get these policy changes that you have no power over at all, and it comes in very quickly. From Monday this will be the policy, and so lots of non-native teachers have had to leave China, which obviously a huge upheaval in their own lives. As far as between American and British teachers go, there's a big kind of misconception. This pronunciation is best, or that pronunciation is best, and this has been made through decades of misunderstanding about the importance, or really lack of importance, for pronunciation. But Chinese people on the whole do believe that particular countries are best, and it's not really based on any research. It's just based on what they've heard and hearsay and what they've been led to believe. So they do strive to get that American kind of gold standard, or that British gold standard. Actually, I'm sure you might have seen this, Martin. There's been lots of research about basically the importance of being just understood, like comprehensibility. And
absolutely,
you don't need to have an American teacher or a British teacher, or an Australian teacher, for example. Most people learning English will never really speak English with other native teachers or other native people. They're going to be using English with other non-natives who are also, and they'll be using it as lingua franca. So the non-native, it really doesn't matter, as I'm sure that you know, but there are lingering misconceptions.
Yeah, particularly, I completely agree with regards to ELF, as it's called. Nothing related to Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, but ELF is English as a lingua franca, and I completely agree. The vast majority of students that are studying English are able to interact in English with other non-native English speakers, and comprehensibility and being able to make yourself understood, and
intelligibility.
Understand intelligibility, mutual intelligibility is so important. And I more so now I focus heavily on pronunciation, so that when students become exposed to speakers of English on varying degrees, they're able to understand the language when there's forms of connected speech and there's forms of words blending together, word blends and that sort of
Yeah,
thing within English. And I think that's so much more important than students trying to strive for a pronunciation like I want British pronunciation or I want American or
yeah.
Australian pronunciation. That's so
It's
much more
super
important.
important. It's super important. And what we should strive to do as teachers when we're teaching is give our students a range of different inputs. So let's say you're searching for videos that students can watch to practice their English. Really make it a purposeful task for you to like look for different types of English, so that students get a chance to hear it, and so that when they're using English as a lingua franca, or just speak going on work trips or whatever it may be, they've had experience from you, the teacher, in giving them
Mhm.
this different input of different accents to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much. I'm going to have a look at the comments again. There's a couple of comments coming through. We've got Tamara again. I should be interested in teaching virtually, but not in China. I suppose nowadays, I guess, with the world as more connected than before, you're able to teach anywhere around the world as long as you've got a stable internet connection. I suppose she strikes up an interesting question. Are you able to teach remotely to a range of students, China or non-Chinese, I suppose, through a company? And what do you look for when finding students online? Is an interesting question, I guess. The second one, what do you look for when finding students? If we keep it that, what would be your ideal student, Stuart?
Oh, well, they're all so different, aren't they?
Mm,
I think someone that is probably willing to take risks and willing to engage. We've all had, as teachers, we've all had students who are very shy. One of our jobs is to get a shy student to feel more, have less anxiety and feel comfortable in speaking up. But it's tricky. Obviously, in an ideal world, when you get a new student, they're outgoing and they're willing to make mistakes. They do a lot of speaking. They're very chatty. You kind of almost have to kind of stop, stop, stop. Um, that I guess in an ideal world, a student might be like that, but obviously we're not lucky enough that people are people. Sometimes they're very shy. Quite often,
mhm,
when you get a new student, let's say it's for example a young Chinese student, it might be the very first time that they've ever spoken to someone that's not Chinese.
mhm,
This is very daunting for them. Just off camera, they might have their whole family watching, or even filming on their
mhm,
phone. This is very anxiety giving kind of situation for them. And I think
mhm,
us as teachers, we need to understand that this is a big deal for them and it's frightening, and give them all the support and the patience and the encouragement that they need to get over that initial kind of shock of having to speak English to us and feeling more
mm.
comfortable when they're learning.
Absolutely. No, I take your point. Right. Well, I guess we'll finish off with maybe future aims and aspirations. There is one comment, if you allow me time. BM has mentioned, about games that you could teach or vocabulary to teach. Um, uh, Games that you could include for vocabulary or grammar. What I would recommend, perhaps, is maybe having a look at your website, Tefl Lemon, if that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so have a look at Stuart's website. I've already provided the link here. And I'm sure there's a variety of games and activities that other teachers could incorporate with their
there's
teaching.
many on the website.
Yeah, great. Right. Well, let's get back to final point then. Future aims and aspirations for your, for your teaching, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I guess it's really one big main thing. I've for the last 2.5 years, I've been writing my own teacher training course for teachers that want to become TEFL qualified, and it's a 180-hour qualification, a level 4 qualification. That's it. That's the website. So this has 20 units where teachers, if you've never, it's been written in such a way where, if you're completely new to TEFL teaching, like me and you were right at the very beginning, it can take you in baby steps all the way through from the very beginning to the end. Or it's been written for teachers with experience already but want to brush up on their skills or learn new things. The units have been informed by the very latest research. I've really, I mentioned COVID and the pandemic. There's a unit there on online teaching and different, the latest research in really getting the most out of your online classes. I've put a lot of love and effort, and it's just coming now to the very final stages of it. I'm putting in a little bit more into the assessment. There's a unit on language assessment, so I'm putting in more on formative assessment and also the power of formative assessment in motivation and learner motivation. So it's a lovely course. So basically I'm just at the moment, all of the trainees have been in China except for 2. We've got 2 in another country, but from the end of this year, next year, I'm hoping to go global with it. So it will be an offering that people around the world can use to become a TEFL teacher.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for sharing. I've already put a link in the comments so people could check it out. So, yeah, have a look at, if it's correct, tefllemoncourses.com. I suppose that's the one.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you ever so much. I'm going to share one more website, and I think this is your main website or blog or I guess this is tefllemon.com, and I suppose this is where there's a lot of resources online for other teachers. Is that correct?
Yeah, so tefllemon.com is that's the main website. It's got speaking activities for adults and also for children. It's got great articles on there. It's got a big range of articles in there that are great for people to read. But I guess the main things are free flashcards and games that teachers can use, meaningful games as well, not just kind of like, this will last 15 minutes, really good language, useful games, meaningful games that language teachers can use in their classes.
Okay, right. And I will just add the link here. And so I'll include that as well. So that's also available, tefllemon.com. So everyone here, please check that out. That'll be wonderful. Thank you ever so much for sharing. Just a quick shout out to Shival Tube here. So thank you ever so much for your super sticker. First time I've received that. So thank you. I suppose that person found today's live stream very useful, and it wouldn't be without you, Stuart. So thank you ever so much for your your insight, and it's been great to chat with you because it's the first time that we've actually spoken albeit digitally, face to face.
Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity, Martin, and we'll definitely have to get a nice good Sussex ale one time when I'm back there as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, do you have any final points to make or anything to to share before we finish off today's live
No,
stream?
not really. We've actually covered quite a bit, haven't we? But I'd very much like to do this again at some point in the future if you'll have me back.
Absolutely. It's first time I've had a guest, and I think despite the early concerns of tech being tech, and the potential issues of the connection, I think it's gone quite well, and I'm more than happy to have you back in and join in the live stream again, Stuart.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's it's always the connections issues, isn't it? It's always a connection issue. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay. Sorry. So it's chivalrous tube. Is that how you would pronounce it, Stuart?
Oh, what's that? I've not seen that before. What's that?
Is that, how would you pronounce? Is that chivalrous tube? It's the name of the subscriber here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks like that tribal roost tube. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
I don't know what that is though. What's that?
Oh, he shared a super sticker, so showing.
Oh well,
for
thank
today's
you.
live stream.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a day today. Oh, okay. I've got correct pronunciation. Pronounced chivalrous. Is that not a word in British? Chivalrous?
Chivalrous?
Oh. Chivalrous?
Yeah.
Chivalrous.
Chivalrous.
Yeah, I think it is a word in British English. I'm yes.
Shows how much we know, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Well, I'm looking at it.
This is the thing with English. It's literally got more. Literally, it's a fact. It's got more words than any other language, and most educated people only know like 10 or 15% of those words. So it's a new one.
Yeah, chivalrous. Okay, well, yes, thank you ever so much.
Maybe we're just not educated, Martin. That's the problem.
Right. Well, yeah. Thank you ever so much, everybody. Really appreciate everybody joining today's live stream. Yeah, thank you ever so much, Chivalrous, for your super sticker. Much appreciate it. And yeah, thanks ever so much, Stuart, again for your insight and all the questions from everybody watching today. But it'd be great to have you back here soon.
No problem at all.
All right, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Okay, well, thank you ever so much, everybody. Huge thanks for everybody joining today's live stream. I'm going to call it a day today, but really appreciate everybody's support. And I'll be back here next week, 1 p.m. UK time, with another guest. So, yeah, if there's anyone here watching, you want to join a live stream, that'd be great. Stay safe, everyone. Stay well and keep thinking. Take care. Bye-bye.